Awusia any come out channel social some say I say AGH Politics Avenue. Political source training book is wiki headlines. And a gem any DB exum. Any dimnia braxium Mawa Kwaba. Subscribe to the channel Emami. Young Queen Simway. Black box who sends some Yamin Chadi is Miku or a plane crash in Ghana for na any ebusa. Said that bang N90 ibitimi a forensic audit na yetimi the course pote ema plane inyana kwenchia we ena okuzeto abrakwa na daroma wababonten na wodi atudwa se omune US mine akasa se ombihia omumwa se omumra na omu embra na omabua womu na omunye forensic investigations ni hu de course pote na shansomam say aircraft no e chana ban na daroma na ede bedum eye Ghana Armed Forces nti ne bedum busa say na ko ban sa chana man no omu ebu emfu ana papa yi eji inchiremu boy inchiremu a enya asem koto akra at this point in time yemura ono ngasa na so ye intine no nsem ni bi idase so yemre ewa
for how we have conducted ourselves with such dignity, such grace and such respect for the memory of our fallen heroes. I call them the martyrs of August 6th. And may we continue with this spirit, and may we ensure that their memory will remain a blessing to our nation.
Yeah, Honorable. We know that the body reached out to us, the international partners, to help us get to the root of Chinese. Yeah, sure.
I can confirm to you that on the instruction of His Excellency President John Dramani Mahama, we have formally requested the Americans to come in and assist. We all know that they have considerable expertise when it comes to these matters. And so the indication we have received from the Americans is that they are very much willing to assist. We think that it is important to bring in independent experts to ensure that the outcome of the investigations will be acceptable to all, so that there will also be confidence in the process. Nobody has anything to hide, and it is important that this process is done in a very thorough manner, in a manner that will be at par with best practice, the international gold standard. That is what President Mahama wants us to achieve. So I can assure you that our note verbal has long been issued. The Americans have responded, and we are expecting the arrival of American experts soon to help us with the investigations.
Why not? The Z9 helicopter, we understand, is Chinese made. Have you also reached out to the Chinese government?
You do know that I am a member of the Armed Forces Council and the National Security Council. And so I can confirm to you that the Chinese have already been contacted and the manufacturers are standing by. Indeed, the thing we have received from the CDA, where the blocks as it were made available to the standing by, but in the president's wisdom, the president does not want anything to proceed without. It's quite fair, so that we will just avoid all doubts, so that people will not raise issues of probably conflict of interest, maybe people with some kind of special interest trying to cover up and all of that. So seeing that the Americans have removed from this process and they offer that independent expertise required, I think that we need to applaud the president's wisdom in this matter, and we need to also really thank our American partners for agreeing to assist us in this regard. And the president has said that there should be utmost transparency, and that at all steps of the way, when these experts arrive, when the investigations commence, when the investigations progress, when the investigations conclude, every stage of the way, the Ghanaian people should be kept in the loop. They should know about what is happening. And I can give you the fullest of assurances that there will be no attempt to conceal. I have heard some civil society organizations and some other analysts raise concern about, if you like, lack of information about the investigative processes. It is just because it hasn't commenced. We are waiting for the experts before these investigations are done. And that is why you probably have not been getting regular updates on the investigations. But as soon as the American experts arrive and investigations commence, you can be assured that the Ghanaian people will be kept in the loop. Of course, taking into account national security considerations, and apart from that, you can be well assured that all that has to be made public will be made public. Because really, if you look at our colleagues, they've always been people who represent good governance. And good governance requires transparency, it requires accountability. It also requires a great sense of commitment to facts, proof, not distorting, not concocting, and not concealing anything. And so it is in really the interests of our fallen heroes to honor them by making sure that even as they are no longer with us, these ideals which they have always represented, which they stand for, those ideals must continue to be espoused and actually advanced in a very concrete manner. So you can expect that that will be done.
And finally, but maybe briefly for me, you're a member of the Armed Forces Council. What would this mean to the fight against illegal mining? The Interior Minister was just hinting a couple of days ago that there'll be heightened activities towards the fight.
I can confirm to you that you are going to see a fight that has never been witnessed in this country. President Mahama is going to lead a very ruthless and relentless campaign against Galamsey. He has not minced words at all. We had a brief cabinet meeting earlier today, and the president was very clear. There was no ambiguity that he will be leading a war that we have never seen to deal with this canker, this existential threat, once and for all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, so the foreign minister there laying it all out as to why the black box may not immediately be heading to China. Let me bring in Dr. Ishmael Holonvo, who's also with us. I'll come back to you, Richard, shortly. But, Doc, you've heard the very words of the foreign affairs minister to avoid cover-ups and conflicts. What would this spell to Ghana-China relations then?
Thank you and good evening to your viewers. From my understanding, I think that given the domestic situation, the foreign minister and, of course, the president are right in trying to seek an independent investigation so that some of the issues that have been raised domestically can be put to bed. Now, in terms of Ghana-China relation, you don't expect any major strain on our diplomatic relation, particularly if we inform the Chinese that given our situation, we want to involve a third party. So once they are in the know that this is what we intend to do and the reasons we are intending to do them, then we will not expect any major strain on diplomatic relations. But the only thing it communicates with them is that perhaps we are a little bit suspicious of either the quality of their product or their expertise, but giving...
Yeah, but apologies for cutting through. If you're using that word, suspicion, what is there to fear? Because the procedure we understand from the experts is you take it back to the manufacturer.
Yes, but then in this case, you want to get a third view, which is to ensure that whatever outcome will be brought out has legitimacy, given that your domestic situation, we are dealing with a public that is highly suspicious, and they are right to be suspicious. And of course, in international relations, the best approach is to treat everybody as a potential suspect. So it's okay if we are suspicious of our friends, but we must do it respectfully. That is to say that involve them, let them know that this is the step you decide to take and the reasons why you are taking them. And then because China itself has always based their foreign policy on non-interference when it comes to issues of sovereignty, I'm sure they will respect it. And going forward, you will still work with them. This is not the first country that the Z9 helicopter will have a crash. It has been having major issues across Africa, Cameroon, Mali, and other places. So sometimes you want to establish independently so that when the result is put out in the public domain, we know that we have done the very best investigation, and then the truth of the matter will help us all to put this issue to bed and move on.
I was just asking Richard earlier about the implications, possibly some implications for national security, sovereignty, maybe. What are your immediate concerns there, knowing that, well, this will be foreign experts coming into our homeland to probe matters? Is it far-fetched, or is this something that we should be open to? Dr. Holova, I hope you can hear me. But Richard, come in for me at that point, because you've heard the foreign minister speak and explain why immediately that black box may not be going to China.
So, Blazer, we need to make some few things clear. Samuel Kujeto was not emphatic when the question was asked him whether the black box will be given to the Americans. He said the Chinese were made aware and Americans were also invited with their expertise. Now, when you take the kind of investigations we are doing, there are various components of the investigations. So it doesn't mean that once third parties come in, our local investigators or our national security interest investigators will put their arms and allow them to have access to everything. It is not done that way. Now, when it comes to the black box belong to the Chinese. It doesn't belong to the Americans. And it doesn't come so easy that the Americans can open the black box. No, it doesn't work like that. It has to be a protocol standard if we decide that the Americans should open the black box, that the Chinese should be present. Because this is their intellectual property and this is their product. So you do not pass it on to another country. And even if you bring in geopolitics, in the area of geopolitics, there's nothing like you don't trust the Chinese, so you are giving the black box to the Americans to open. Then you better go and buy the American plane, that when they crash, the Americans have access to it. You might be creating problems, and you might be raising the stakes very high in terms of geopolitics and your position, in terms of your foreign policy. That notwithstanding, if we take a position that let Americans handle the black box, and some other investigative aspects in terms of the technical abilities they are bringing, then it becomes a collective interest and it becomes a collective activity where everybody stands to watch and everybody can assess the quantitative methodologies, the qualitative methodologies, the forensic scientific methodologies, and the manual methodologies, so that we will come to a similar conclusion, knowing that everybody has played their part. And Blessed, I have stressed the point again, our local investigators, as of today or tomorrow, would have gotten about 70 to 80% of what has happened to us, the things that are likely to change, and the things that are likely to remain the same before you bring in any third party. So it's not like we haven't done any job, and it's not like we have folded our arms and we are waiting for them to come and help us do everything from beginning to the end. So what Samuel Kujeto said was that in line with best practice, which I agree totally, and in lines of transparency and quality of work, you will need some expertise from some other countries, and we have decided to choose the Americans.
What does this say?
Notwithstanding, the Chinese have a role to play because the helicopter belongs to them.
As
part of the contract you sign with them, they have a key role to play.
I see. I want to focus now on what happens on, the capacity of our national security and forensics capacity within this country. The experts say, well, there's enough capacity. The infrastructure is not there. You've worked with the national security before. In fact, you continue to do. What will be the need now for national security, having learned a lot of lessons from this crash?
No, definitely, it depends on what you are looking at. I made a point earlier that I have run this country the length and breadth with the crime scene department of the Ghana Police Service. Those guys possess capabilities and expertise way beyond what you might have think of. The Americans benefited from their expertise in various dispensations and in various capacities. Not just the Americans, but the British. And I just told you, Anala has been visiting Britain to teach. It's an instructor of West standing to teach about crashes and the expertise you need to investigate it. He's not the only one with that capacity. It's just that your political arena and your governance structure raises suspicion about almost everything. So, Blessed, I can tell you, from the expertise we have, Mr. Kumado has traveled extensively across the globe, teaching and training when it comes to expertise in various dimensions. It doesn't mean that our expertise or our experts are putting their arms and they are waiting for all manner of persons to run into the forest or run into our military. There are levels of protocol and standard procedure to follow. And Blessed, if you remember, my uncle, when Commander Sobojo made a point that recently in India, there was a fight between the Indians and the Americans as to whether the black box should be sent to America or they should come. At the end of the day, the Americans went to India and they opened up the black box. It depends on your national priority. It depends on the target you are looking at. And there are various dimensions of what foreign partners can do and what the locals can do. Our army is one of the best you can have in the country. Our BNI and the intelligence gathering activities or expertise of these guys is way enormous what anybody can think. So let us not create a picture as if we do not have what it takes to investigate this matter and we are folding our arms waiting for the Americans to come. We have worked with them in various capacities over the years, and this is just one of those ones to share expertise and skills across the globe. So that is what we are, and that is what is going to happen.
Okay, the next phase of the conversation will be about the illegal mining and the fight against it. The minister speaking there because he's a member of the Armed Forces Council, and his point is that Galamsey will be defeated. Some say that's too ambitious for the government, knowing that, in fact, we had a president who put his presidency on the line for that, and yet that did not happen. Galamsey is hydra-headed, you believe. Do you feel the government should be cautious in their expectations, though?
When the NDC came to power, they took certain initiatives that helped. They managed to reclaim some of the forests that were being tampered with or were being encroached with Galamsey. One of the last conversations I had with Dr. Mutala was in that regard. Some of that risk assessment expertise and angles they would need to look at. I didn't know he was going to die. I would have pushed as many things to him as possible. They did a great job in that area. The Minister for Lands and Natural Resources took an initiative. There were too many things they were doing at the same time. But Galamsey, how did we get to where we are? There's a political interest, there's a business interest, and there's an investment interest, and there's a national security interest, and there's due diligence interest. These 5 things I can talk about, if they can find a convergence criteria and make sure that the national security interest or the national interest is prioritized above all, then they should be winning the war against Galamsey. Other than that, it's a huge challenge. And these are some of the realities we face in trying to curtail a prolonged activities of Galamsey, where a large number of people do not want the Galamsey fight to be crashed, and they play lip service with it. I can agree with the president. I can agree with Sambo Kudjeto, the foreign minister, but it's a lot of work because of the 5 interests I'm talking about. National interest, political interest, investment interest, and business interest. And there's a crisis interest. So when the likes of us and many other people within the space said that the fight against Galamsey, if it is not won, poses a major national security interest. Some people laugh it off. And we said that what we are seeing is no longer environmental degradation, but these are terrorists that are likely to take on our state. Some people overlook it. And we said that when these guys embody themselves, they will have the capacity to do some other things that will destabilize the state and the communities they find themselves in. Some other people overlook it. I think let's come to the fore. All of us working together and saying that this is a threat against the state and we can overcome it.
We'll talk about the plans, security arrangements for the state funeral, which is set to happen. But still on illegal mining, we've deployed the military. We've, formed new units. So many operations, lost count of them actually. What's left of it now, and what should be next?
Take the politicians out and let the military take charge and run it as if it's a threat against our nation. And once you begin to have people being charged with treasonous offenses and activity, it will stop. What has been a bane and a burden for this country is the nature of politics. That has become unproductive sometimes. Many of the people we call the gurus behind these Galamsey activities, majority of them are politicians and people who have political affiliations. And that is why we have not won it in a very long time. Once you see it as a national security interest approach and you begin to deploy the military to deal with some of these things, we are going to get a result. A Galamsey should not be anything too difficult if the political interest, which is a predominant factor in this particular issue, is taken away. Then again, you can also look at the economic side of it. We have not been doing well as a nation when it comes to providing jobs for our people. And we have also not been doing well when it comes to creating jobs. There are better ways of looking at it and creating viable jobs and sustainable jobs that will take many of the people we are seeing the Galamsey pit out of the pit. We will need to be creative about it. And the results are not far-fetching. We can get it done. So I was happy when Samakuja Broker said that the president is not joking and is not playing with it. If they can go ahead with that vigor and with that focus and with that determination, I think we will reclaim our forests and reclaim the land and make sure we are doing the right things at the right places at the right time. Other than that, it will become a 30 force for them and they may have to look at it again.
The fight against illegal mining for many has also got to do with survival. The economic aspect. So many of these communities that do not have much to live on in terms of job opportunities for the youth and all of that. The kinetic approach has been too much, you agree?
Definitely. Why are we not providing jobs for them? Why are we not creating mines like the Ashanti Gogood and the Newmont? Can't we do it? You just signed a contract with Ibrahim Mahama's company to mine in the black water across the Upper West region. Monies that have been taken out of this country, the financial leakages and the corruption. Can't we put our heads together and set up a beautiful mines, well structured, well managed, that will provide jobs, and some of these are our brothers and sisters who want to mine and find livelihood, economic activities, they may be willing to put them there. Ask yourself what has happened to the Bogoso mines and the Kotea mines and many of those mining companies. Politics and lack of prudence and ineptitude and lack of productivity and lack of accountability, which has engulfed our political arena, has left these companies to be run down. And many of the things Nkrumah did, knowing that today job creation and economic activities and survival will become a major problem, we have overlooked them and we bastardized all these companies in setup. And today here we are. What has happened to the Akuffo textiles and the Japan textiles and the gas companies and many of the tomato factories in setup? He knew that was going to become a country where we will have a large chunk of our people who will be looking for jobs. He gave us a motorway, we bastardized it. He gave us Akuffo. Many of the things Nkrumah has planned, he knew, he oversaw, he saw into the future. I think that let's wake up as a new country, as new people with a new determination to ensure that we are doing the right things, providing jobs for our young people. And the issue of Galamsey, will be treated as one of those criminal activities. Blessed, ask yourself, in any country where crime is not punished and people commit crime and they can get away with it, they will rationalize bad behavior and promote antisocial tendencies in society. And I have just published a new book to talk about criminal behavior. And you should see some of the things I have put in those books. I think we can do it. Let's rise up as a nation who are so patriotic about development of this country, and we will deal with this issue of government.
And let's get into that debate then, because this book that you've written, I see Ken Ashigwe describing these illegal miners as environmental criminals. Are they really criminals?
Definitely yes, because you are engaging in an activity that do not conform to the statutory code, and you have breached many of our statutory laws in this country. And so that is why you are described as a criminal. Who is a criminal? When you take up a gun and shoot somebody, you are treated as a criminal, a murder. When you go in to devastate our water bodies and our environmental, and destroy our environment, and you are creating health crisis for Earth, then you are likely to fall into the criminal code. You know, when we passed many of these laws in this country, we never implemented them. And it is of no, you know, we pass laws that do not have enforcement capacity. It's a problem. But I can tell you, look at the environment. You don't need a soothsayer prophet to tell you that many of these people are engaging in criminality. We can look at the economic side of it. But you cannot say that because you're hungry, you come into the office of the president at Jubilee House with a bulldozer, and you begin to mine gold at that particular place. No, there are standard procedure for many of these things. And I think we need to look at the crime side of it, and we need to look at the social side and economic side of it. But by and large, many of these things they have done have freed on our laws in this country, and we need to address it as quickly as possible.
Let's look at the arrangements for tomorrow. Quite a heavy day it will be.
We are some who team Koso or Chananoso, I'm not so Jemrewa, that's any so bad, you know. And you have to be a dominion, you shame me. Now in science or my strong supra.